not all Boses are created equal. So today we'll take a look at some of the Bose and the cons of the Bose QuietComfort headphones, as well as compare it to the Bose QuietComfort Ultra to see which one you should get.
Namaste, we're DHRME, ducks on a high-resolution music experience.
Quack.
These are just a part of the whole lineup of Bose, right? So just to set things straight for everyone, Bose QuietComfort has been around for a little while. I mean, I've been a personal favorite fan, whatever, of the Bose 35, QC35, and the QC35-2, and the 45, and then we had the noise cancelling 700 headphones as well. But these are the 2023 models, yes, right? These are the latest.
This is the QuietComfort 2023 we're talking about, and
the QuietComfort Ultra.
So these are the two models we are comparing, just to be clear.
But we're going to break this video down into a couple of sections, right? We're going to have the similarities, we're going to talk about the differences, and whether you should get it.
Let's start with the similarities.
And since they're called QuietComfort, let's take the first part of the quiet, exactly, and talk about the noise cancelling, because they are quite similar. But before we get into that button situation, because you can, of course, toggle between the different noise cancelling modes.
That's right.
The ordinary QuietComfort has all buttons. It has a nice button on the left cup that is dedicated for toggling between noise cancelling modes. Whereas the QuietComfort Ultra, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, has gotten rid of a lot of buttons. So now it's a bit more confusing. It's the button that's used for play, pause, answering up, etc. If you hold it down, it cycles through your ANC modes.
That's right, yeah.
So it's really playing double duty on that button.
That's how you get to noise cancelling, but the performance itself is a very Bose encounter, close encounter, Bose. Yeah, there's going to be some puns here. They're very similar. So at least to our ears, they're not only are they similar, they're also excellent. We put both of these in tier S, and while there might be some minute differences, for all practical purposes, we think they are tier S, some of the best noise cancelling you can get on headphones today. Kind of expect from Bose, they've always been the title holder. Sony sometimes pips them at the post, but they got back and they got back good. That was noise cancelling, but
transparency. Yeah.
We are talking similarities, but this one is a bit different.
It's not the same. For the Ultra, again, tier S, guys, very close to not wearing headphones at all, but not quite, just a little bit shy of that, but still definitely tier S. The normal QC, the QuietComfort, we would put in tier A. So overall, the Ultra has a more natural awareness mode, not quite no headphones experience, like I said, but very, very close. The QC suppresses a bit more across the frequencies, but still a great option, to have a conversation and just be aware. I would even say that the QC, the normal QuietComfort, is better than the Sony XM5, which is also tier A in transparency mode. So we're in the Netherlands. It's been kind of a windy day today. We've been hearing it actually inside. Yeah. Can the Boses do anything for us?
The Boses can do something for us. So the Bose has this thing called wind noise reduction. It's called wind block, but essentially you can put a special mode on these. So you can have a quiet mode, an aware mode, and maybe an outdoor mode. And in the outdoor mode, that wind block can be activated. And in our experience in terms of testing it, this did a pretty good job for light to medium wind. The Ultra also has something beyond the wind block on that button. You can do immersive audio, but we'll come to that later. But in terms of pure wind noise cancellation, I think these two do pretty well.
Speaking of that app, it's good. I mean, it has all the stuff that you would expect from a companion app. It's not all too complex, pretty straightforward, and they're quite similar between both of these headphones when you hop into that app. You get your ANC modes, you get EQ presets, EQ presets, and you get a device list, which means there is multi-point, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. You also get a wear sensor, but that's only on this guy, the Ultra. The QC does not have that. So that is one difference, but apart from that, another similarity is the self-voice feature. Bose has had this for a while now. Basically, how much of your own voice would you like to hear when you're on a phone call, from low to high. We always keep it on high because otherwise we end up screaming with these sorts of headphones on in a call, because
that's right.
Noise cancelling is just so good.
That's the software. On the hardware side also they're very similar, even though there are small differences which we come to later. Both are foldable, both come with a hard case, Unfortunately, the Bose Ultra hard case, it has these kind of, I don't know, what do you call them, grooves or divots, molds for you to actually position your headphones correctly, which to us actually makes it harder to position them correctly because you have to do this whole game of which way do they fit. Whereas the QuietComfort is just like an open box, you just shove them in there whatever way they fit and you're good to go. So that's a bit different, it's a bit trickier to put back. Also in terms of hardware, another thing if we talk about, we've done with Quiet, let's talk about comfort. Was there any difference?
Not really, and that's why we're still in the similarities section. I really get why Bose markets the Quiet and the Comfort. Very happy that they've stuck to that, right? Because we didn't have that experience with the NC700s. These guys and those guys, very, very good. You know, they're very light clamp. There's barely any heat generation. Also,
nice
you don't
padding
really
on the crown as well.
Yeah,
both.
Yeah,
doesn't.
Although on that one you do feel like there's two pieces in the headband. Do you feel?
Oh
that?
yeah.
Like the cushion is separate from the headband. Whereas on this, it's a much more integrated unit.
And there's got to be a difference in the battery life. Well, there's not got to be a difference in the battery life because let's say battery lives matter.
Battery lives matter?
Anyway, on the battery lives, both of these, Bose advertises them to be 24 hours if I'm not right.
That's right, yeah.
And in true Bose fashion, in our test, they exceeded, both of these headphones exceeded. So that's nice. Companies advertising a number and we getting a higher number. Often, most of the times it's the other way around. So the interesting thing is that the Ultra exceeded the number that we got on testing from the QuietComfort. So on the Ultra we got 30 hours, whereas on this guy we got 27 hours. But that's neither here nor there. Both are pretty good and you will get a bit more battery life than what Bose advertised, at least we did. So that's nice to see. That brings us to the end of the similarities.
And the start of the differences.
Yay.
All right, controls. I think I alluded to it a little bit earlier as well. All buttons on the QuietComfort, 5 buttons in total actually. And the Ultra went ultra minimalist because they've just come down to 2 buttons and then a volume slider. I know what you're thinking. You wanna tell everyone what you're thinking?
I wanna slide into that topic saying, why does no one except Apple understand touch controls on headphones are a pain in the butt? You can't get accurate volume control.
No.
You're sliding about. Sometimes you slide too much, it goes too loud, things like that. Whereas with the button, one press is one press. You know what to expect. And I really think companies need to stop with this, but I guess they think it's important. Maybe consumers think this is fancy, so that's why they do it. But we were not very impressed with the volume slider, and it does some other things too, doesn't it, Kevin?
It does, and before we get to that, you also asked me like, hey, do I use the volume because it's so annoying? And I reflected on that. I was like, I generally use volume controls when they're there on headphones, but on these guys, actually, I tend to prefer grabbing the device it's connected to and changing it there, which is not exactly what we would want. And only in certain situations where I really can't grab the device, I'll kind of risk it and then use the slider. As well in the flight, it wasn't very handy to use the onboard system, so I would use the headphones, but it's too finicky.
And let's talk about the power button as well for a second here, because I really like the old style sliding power buttons. It's on your right cup, you just slide it to the right, something has happened, something has physically moved, and you hold it down long for Bluetooth. How does the power button work here, and also what else can you do with the power button and the slider?
So the power button, you just click it once, but what I don't like about the Ultra is that once you've done that, you have to wait. It takes a while, then it makes the startup tune, and then it connects. You're like, hey, did I press it? Did I not press it? Whereas here, hey, I've slid the slider. But another thing is the multi-point situation. So you can hear what the devices are that you're connected to by sliding that slider one more time once it's on.
Nice.
And it tells you what the devices are that you're connected to. The Ultra does the same, but the Ultra gives you an extra feature, and that is it will cycle through the connected devices for you. I mean, if you have 2, 3, maybe 4 devices, it's fine. But for people like us that connect
Last I saw on your list, there were 8 devices.
Yeah, exactly.
That includes phones, laptops.
So a bunch of mine, bunch of yours, all connected, all in the device list. You don't want to use that power button to cycle through and wait for the right device to pop up.
But it is a nice feature if you have 3 or 4
sure.
devices. It's a nice feature. You can keep cycling without having to pull the device out.
And then just hopping back to that volume slider thing, it does have one more feature that we should talk about, and that is if you hold it down, it can do a couple of things. So it can, start up your Spotify, so it's called Spotify Tap. You can call up your voice assistant, it can tell you your battery life, and it can cycle through your immersive audio modes. Personally, I've set it to calling up my voice assistant, but I've also used it for Spotify Tap, so I kind of change between the two. Those I find to be the most useful.
So do you get this on the QuietComfort as well?
You do. You can use the function.
This is not a difference, man. Okay, the difference is you
Yeah.
use a button here
Yeah.
and you use a slide.
Yeah.
But in terms of what you
But
get,
you can't do all the things that you can on this.
and of
So
course not immersive audio, because
Yeah.
we'll come to that in a bit.
Exactly.
Before we get to immersive audio, what about our own audio? What about the popsicles? What about the icicles? And what about the testing?
Popsicle. Icicle. Testing. Those were the samples, guys. Not sure what you guys thought of it, but our lowdown on the microphones is that the QC Ultra faced wind and noise in our outdoor tests, but in our opinion, still did much better than the normal QC headphones. The QCs are kind of sensitive to background sound, and you really hear that because you hear the whooshing of the cars very clearly, and it kind of takes away from the clarity of the voice.
I think this is overall, even though it's a small difference, it is a big difference
Yeah.
when it comes to using headphones outside for phone calls.
Yeah, and if you are outside, then in windy conditions, then the wind goes to the Ultra, because it was able to handle it much better than the QC, except when the wind was very strong. But okay, that's.
But there is still something that the QC has that the
Oh, yeah.
Ultra does not, and that is an inline mic on the cable. That is pretty incredible in this day and age. I mean, we were having the discussion about, you were talking about earpods. What were you talking about?
Oh yeah, the fact that you just see so many people still use earpods, and I kind of would judge them. I'm like, oh, you're using old stuff, wired. And then I was like, wait a minute, you actually sound really good. What the hell?
Yeah.
So, and then you were saying,
Yeah, you can't beat physics. A mic close to your mouth, which is why the boom mics also do so well.
Yeah.
These guys are trying, they're getting better over time. We see that, but it's still not at the level where there's a microphone near your mouth.
Yeah.
And that's not the only thing that is different between these two for phone calls. There is volume control and ANC toggling on both, so that is similar, but the QC surprisingly can mute a call while you're on it using just a button. You double tap the button to mute it, I think. The Ultra does not.
What the hell?
That is ultra surprising.
And ultra disappointing.
Fuck man, no approve.
No. But what the Ultra does try to do, especially justify the higher price point, is a standby mode. So they've come up with this thing where you don't actually need to power the headphones off. You just take them off, put them on the table.
I really like it. It's a very nice original idea. AirPods Max.
But it sounds fancy, but it actually does work. It does disconnect, and then when you wear them, it does power on. But the gripe I have with it, again, same thing like I said with the power button, it just takes a while for it to start up, play the tune, connect to your devices again. And before we get into the sound part, there are two more things that the Ultra does do that the QuietComfort doesn't, and that's wear sensor. Talked about it, you get an option in the app, and you get Google Fast Pair.
So let's talk about sound, because quiet is good, comfort is good, but we need to make some noise sometimes. And both of these sound surprisingly good for Bluetooth headphones. But if I were to make an analogy, I would think that the QuietComfort is more like fast food and the Ultra is more like, a nice fine dining experience. You enjoy both of them, and this one is a bit bassier, a bit, punchier, a bit more maybe dynamic, and that one is a bit flatter, a bit more refined. The treble sounds a bit better. But I'm going to say something controversial here. I think if you're on the go, and if you have tweaked the EQ on both of these to your preference, you're going to be fine. You're going to be good with either of these. These are very good sounding Bluetooth headphones on the bassy side, but still very good. Of course, if you are somebody who's a bit more into audio, appreciates the finer nuances, appreciates the aptX lossless, the Snapdragon sound, then the Ultra is the one for you, not the QuietComfort. But for basic Bluetooth audio, this is great. And I did talk about EQ. That's a similarity. Both of these have EQ. They just have a 3-band EQ, but it works quite well, at least to cut down some rough things that you don't like.
And what's good to note is that there's no ability to play music over the USB, so that's purely for charging. But you can use the cable. There's a wired cable, 2.5 to 3.5. And if the battery's dead or you plan to just turn them off and use them, you can as well. The wired connection works. So that's good to know.
Yeah. One big difference, which I forgot to mention, is that the Ultra has immersion mode. everything needs to be spatial or immersive these days, so the Ultra has that. And I must say they've done it quite well. It's not a crazy bad sounding mode, but I did prefer the Ultra's immersion mode more for things like movies and videos and things like that, rather than music, because for me it throws the fidelity off a little bit. Okay. Which ones should we get, and will we agree, will we disagree? Will it be Bose before Hose? So the question is the QuietComfort Ultra or the QuietComfort not Ultra?
Well, my take, before I give you my take, I think the price difference is important to mention. The QuietComfort is retailing at $350. Just the ordinary QuietComfort at an ordinary $350. Pocket change.
Pocket change, yeah.
Right?
I think the XM5 is cheaper.
Exactly. And then the Ultra we have is at $430. So $80 difference. What are you getting for $80 more? You're getting a better transparency mode, you're getting better microphones, you're getting a wear sensor, and their support for Snapdragon sound. That kind of justifies the $80 difference.
It's ultra clear. Get the Ultra, and again, these are not bad headphones.
No.
We found very little to fault with them actually. So it would be weird to say, okay, why are we clearly preferring that? It's just the pricing. It's just ridiculous. This is $350. That is $430. At least you get something more. I think there would be a price difference at which I would buy these over that.
What would that be?
I don't know, $100, $150 less than the Ultra, because right now I give $350 for these, and there's it does have an advantage, all buttons, love that, but other than that, it's Ultra all the way for audio, for mics, for transparency, it's.
Yeah, and I think those microphones are going to weigh in hard for you, right? You really do take calls outdoors and stuff.
Yeah.
For me, I think as well, if it was retailing at about $299, I think that would be a great price point. And I would take them because, like you said, it even has mute on it, right? All buttons. I mean, I'm a fan of that. But yeah, unfortunately, we're at a $350 price point, so go with the Ultras.
Yeah, and in Europe, these are even more expensive.
Ooh, yeah.
I think these are 370 euros or something, which is bizarre. And we bought both of these headphones with our own money. So we don't have any sponsors, at least not for this video. So you guys are the real sponsors as YouTube members, as patrons. Thank you so much for your support, all of you.
And of course, a special thanks to our Fuckman tier members. You guys are next level. Thanks so much for all of your support. Thanks to Gamma, Panda, Paula, and Hunter.
You've been going with the Bose.
And we've been DHRME.
Three. What about the popsicles? What about the icicles? And what about the testing of microphones?
Oh, yeah. I thought you were going to say something else.
Yeah.
I don't know why I think that.
But strange guy.
Yeah.